What is up, crypto peeps? Good Saturday morning to you, although the time zone might be different depending on when this is released and where the hell you happen to be at the moment. All right, let's talk about the markets real quick before I get into what I wanted to get into. No, we're not going to be talking about Jesus Coin, although I'm glad that they took out a huge banner ad here. The market cap is currently sitting at around $506 million. That is healthy compared to where we've been in most of 2018. Taking a look at Bitcoin. Oh, before I forget, we are joined by another guest today. Say hello to my co-host Rick Sanchez, who doesn't talk much, but he will be monitoring what I say and what I do today and make sure that I'm just on point. So Bitcoin is around 10,800 today, and this is significant because we have managed to break the previous resistance marks that we have identified. Look at my previous videos on Bitcoin, and you know, we're along a pretty predictable path. Anybody that tells you that they can predict, you know, the price of Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency on a specific at a specific price on a specific date doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. And it's really starting to irritate me because YouTube is recommending these YouTube channels to me where, you know, the headlines will say, oh, you know, Bitcoin will be X and X price on X and X date. Nobody can tell you that. As I said in one of the Discord comments, if you got, you know, Stephen Hawking, Warren Buffett, and you resurrected Albert Einstein and you put them in front of a chart, they wouldn't be able to tell you what the price of any coin or any security would be on what date. It just can't happen. It's not the way these things work. Unless you are part of some insider trading or pump and dump group, even then you can't predict the price to the T. But what we can predict are trends. What we can confirm are trends, right? We can confirm directions. The extent is what we cannot confirm. The direction is what you can confirm based on your technical analysis and based on fundamental analysis and news. You can predict direction and trends. You cannot predict extent. So how high something will be, what price something will be, how low something will be, you cannot predict. All right, so let's take a look at Bitcoin real quick. If you take a look at the the couple of videos that I did on Bitcoin recently, you'll see my detailed analysis on it. Looking at the 1 day, we are now trading above the 200-day EMA, which is this blue line right here, which is a great sign. And what did we say? What do we say in one of the previous videos? If we go above the 200-day EMA, we'll start inching towards the 100-day EMA. And that is exactly where we're at right here. This yellow line is the 100-day. So once we cross the 200-day, we're going to be moving to the 100-day. And we can use this as our loose resistance level and hopefully become support in the future. And then you can also use the Fibonacci retracement targets as support, as future support and resistance levels. So after we cross this 100-day here, if we close above it, then I am going to be looking for Bitcoin to head in the direction of this 0.382 ratio, which is at around $11,745. We can just say an even 12 for the sake of it. That could be our next target. If you take a look at the 4-hour chart, this is where we drew the consolidation channel, right? After the reverse head and shoulders, we said we'd be going up, and there would be a there would be a small consolidation period, right? And depending on what happens in this channel right here, in this rectangular channel, that will determine where Bitcoin will go next. You see, you know, you've seen people's different predictions saying, oh, Bitcoin is now going to take a dive and we're going to see 3K, or people will say Bitcoin is going to shoot up to 15K. Well, again, we can't really predict price points, and especially based on, you know, loose terms. Like, you need some sort of valid analysis behind it. And based on our analysis here, we have this rectangular continuation channel. And we expected Bitcoin to bounce around in here a little bit. And depending on where, if it broke this support line, then we might see a pullback back down to previous recent lows. If we saw a breakout, then we might expect it to shoot up quickly past the 200-day on its way to the 100-day. And in this case, we're looking at the 4-hour chart. So these aren't day calculations. Each of these candles is 4 hours. And then looking at the 1 week is where we saw the Dragonfly Doji. A lot of you guys were enamored with that name, but we saw that right here. And remember, towards the beginning of the week, we started seeing this green bar, and I said that this Dragonfly Doji would signal a reversal in trend, which is now confirmed by this next week bar right here. So the trend did reverse. Even if we see a pullback, even if we fall back down, the trend reversed for this week, and that was confirmed by this Dragonfly pattern. Now, again, there's no reason for me to believe that Bitcoin is going to decline, because there isn't any indication of that. And I'm not going to make some wild prediction on, where Bitcoin is going to be just based on some arbitrary bullshit or some YouTube video that I saw or... Okay, so that is Bitcoin and the market. So what I wanted to talk about today was Bitcoin Private. And you guys might have heard about Bitcoin Private. Some of you might have not. So let's do a brief overview. Bitcoin Private is basically going to be a co-forked coin between the Bitcoin core chain and the ZClassic chain. And what it is looking to achieve is basically taking the best of both worlds, taking the decentralized peer-to-peer nature of Bitcoin and the privacy aspect of ZClassic. So if you look here, basically what is BTC, why BTCP, and then it talks about the privacy using the ZK snarks technology embedded within ZClassic. It's decentralized just like Bitcoin. However, unlike Bitcoin, it'll be fast because they are planning on increasing the block size. So being able to handle more transactions per second. When is this happening? So the hard fork is happening February 28th, and the fork date and mainnet launch will happen approximately 2 days later. Now, why is this relevant to you as an investor, and could you potentially make mass profits from this? Yes, you can. We have the previous Bitcoin forks data to analyze, and we can see what we could potentially make from this Bitcoin fork. I will say another positive note about this is that Bitcoin Private, we do have hard forks that occurred in the past, and we have that data, which we will go over now. But Bitcoin Private does not come with the stigma that Bitcoin Cash did, or Bitcoin Gold, and certainly not Bitcoin Diamond, where people in the community, in the crypto community, especially ones that have a valid opinion, were calling those scams. Now, I wouldn't go as far as to say they're scams. There is a little bit of deception or deceptive marketing involved with some of the previous Bitcoin forks, because the argument is that they don't operate at all like Bitcoin, but they're using similar logos and they are using the Bitcoin name in order to advertise their coin, but their coin doesn't really provide any real value. Whether I agree or disagree with that, that's for another video, because there's been tons of Bitcoin forks, and they vary in range of usability and practicality. But we will be focusing on Bitcoin Private, and Bitcoin Private does not seem to contain the stigma that the previous Bitcoin forks do. As a matter of fact, it looks well received by most of the community, or they're mum on their opinions just yet. From my perspective, I think Bitcoin Private is I like what they're aspiring to do. Whether Bitcoin Private lasts in the long run as a currency, that's anybody's guess. However, having a private, faster Bitcoin is something that people have been asking about for a long time. And the fact that this team behind Bitcoin Private, including the lead developer, Rhett Creighton, who was also the lead for ZClassic, I believe, people believe in this team. And there doesn't seem to be any nefarious intentions, at least ones that are stated at the moment, right? I mean, who knows what comes out in the future, but as of now, there doesn't seem to be any negative sentiment really regarding Bitcoin Private. Shout out to this guy's bow tie. This guy is clearly the king of the group, and he's dressed appropriately. All right, so let's take a look at the previous Bitcoin forks. This is a site called bitcoinforks.io. It lists all of the Bitcoin forks in the past. We won't look at all of them. Most of them are actually useless. But we will take a look at Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, and Bitcoin Diamond and see what the value was when they hit the market and the potential profits that one could have made early on after hitting the market. So let's take a look at Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash hit the market. If you look at this chart right here, Bitcoin Cash forked on August 1st, 2017. So if we look, this is on Coinigy. If you look on the Bitcoin Cash USD pairing, you'll see that right around that time, this is when it hit the market, right? So we see that as soon as it hits the market, right, the market dictates the price. It was floating between $250 and $400 for a while before shooting up 2 weeks later to, what is this, to around $850. And then obviously this right here signifies that that bull run up that most cryptos saw right before the holidays. So this is kind of an outlier that we won't touch right now, right? Because almost every single crypto saw this kind of trajectory during this time. But let's take a look at how much we could have made here. All right, so if we take something like the measuring tool here and pick somewhere in the middle just to average out, you could have made, just on this little run up here, right, to the peak right here, you could have made 170%. And then if you measure out even further, if you held on to it, you could have made 400% on Bitcoin Cash. And again, we're not going to take this outlier right here because you can easily make over 10x if we include that. But again, this is an outlier. Not saying we won't have a bull run, but this was an anomaly in the crypto space, obviously. Let's take a look at Bitcoin Gold. So Bitcoin Gold hit the market. Let's go back to our chart. It forked on October 24th, 2017, right? So October 24th, 2017, you see it here. It hit the market. Market's dictating its price. It hovered between $98 and $162 for a few days. And then you see that a couple of weeks later, you see this moonshot here. So again, if we do the same treatment and we just take somewhere around the middle of this to try and measure what our profits could have been on this moon run, on this bull run, you would have made 213%, right? So you could see that the profit potential of these previous Bitcoin forks, at least the ones with hype, the ones that are backed by a recognizable development team that also have the potential to be used as currency. So I'm not talking about these previous ones like Bitcoin Pizza or Bitcoin Interest or Bitcoin Rhodium. We're talking about ones that, regardless of what you think of them, right? Regardless of what you think of Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin Gold, regardless of what you think about the ethics behind it, these did come with recognized development teams, and the viability of them to be used as a currency is somewhat recognized. So I'm not going to be talking about Bitcoin Hot or Super Bitcoin, but let's just stick to the ones that are known. So that was Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Gold. If we take a look at Bitcoin Diamond, even something as useless as Bitcoin Diamond, right? It hits the market dictates its price for a few days. And the surprising thing about Bitcoin Diamond is right around that time that the market saw that parabolic run, this is what it looks like on the chart. So Bitcoin Diamond was kind of left in the dust. Nobody really cared about it, although you would still have made a respectable 77% during that run up. But the profit potential was, the max profit potential was right here in mid-January, where Bitcoin Diamond hit a price of 1,044,500 Satoshis, and you would have made 300%. Now, again, these are perfect circumstances, right? So this is saying that you are going to basically know when the high is and sell at the high. I'm just giving you what the potential is, right? Obviously, in the real world scenario, if you hit 100% profits, you might decide to sell. If you hit 200% profits, you might decide to sell. If you hit 30% profits, you might decide to sell. However, we do see a trend, an identifiable trend in the previous Bitcoin forks. It hits the market. Market's trying to dictate its price for a few days, and then within a few weeks, a couple weeks for the other two. This one took a little bit longer. This one took about a month and change. You do see a parabolic run up at some point. So is it worth it to invest in Bitcoin private or try to get your hands on Bitcoin private? In my opinion, it is. I'm going to be trying to get my hands on Bitcoin private. Now, the means with which you do that, how do you get your hands on Bitcoin private? Well, let's go back to the site. Bitcoin private. How do I receive Bitcoin private? When the hard fork occurs, a snapshot of all existing ZCL and BTC holdings will occur. Anyone holding ZClassic or Bitcoin in a wallet or supported exchange will be credited Bitcoin private at a 1-to-1 ratio. For example, if you hold 15.4 ZClassic and 0.1 Bitcoin, you will receive 15.5 Bitcoin private. So any mix and match of ZClassic or Bitcoin that you hold, it will provide you with a 1-to-1 ratio. It has to be on a supported exchange. And conveniently enough, when you try to ask the question, which exchanges are supported currently, we're engaged in active discussions with individual exchanges, but please be patient as we are not yet releasing statements regarding support from individual exchanges. So we don't know yet. It is strongly rumored that Bittrex will support it. So if you have Bittrex, all you have to do is have well, this is not confirmed, but if and when they confirm Bittrex, all you would have to do is have ZClassic or Bitcoin on Bittrex, and it will supply you with the proper amount of Bitcoin private. Otherwise, you have to hold it in a wallet. Not just any wallet. It has to be a wallet wherein you control the private keys in order for you to be able to claim your Bitcoin private later. Now, again, if you're on an exchange that they support and they release a statement saying that exchange is supported, you won't have to do anything in order to claim it. If you're not on the exchange, in order to claim it otherwise, you will have to have your Bitcoin and or ZClassic in a wallet wherein you control the private keys. The wallet that I downloaded for ZClassic was right from their official site. I'll leave the link in the description, but it's a ZClassic Electrum release, the latest ZClassic Electrum release version of their wallet. Now, if you currently own ZClassic, you're in a good place because ZClassic at one point was really cheap, and it certainly is a lot cheaper than Bitcoin, right? If they're providing a 1-to-1 ratio of Bitcoin private to either ZClassic or Bitcoin, well, Bitcoin right now is sitting at almost $11,000. ZClassic today is at around $165. So it is certainly a lot cheaper for you to own ZClassic. Like, you're getting one Bitcoin private per either ZClassic or Bitcoin, right? So obviously it's a lot cheaper to hold ZClassic, which is why the price of ZClassic skyrocketed. But keep this in mind, and we've seen this with different forks in the past where they've offered 1-to-1 rewards for this new forked currency. After the fork occurs and people receive their Bitcoin private, what do you think is going to happen to ZClassic? Not in terms of its existence, but in its price. ZClassic is going to be dumped, which means that the price at which you bought it, you might be, you might lose a substantial amount of money on ZClassic. So is it worth it to buy ZClassic now at $165? I don't know. It's a hard call because Bitcoin private, there's a lot of hype to it and not a lot of negativity. So I'm sure once it hits the market, we might see a parabolic run really quickly. I might, if I didn't have any ZClassic, obviously if you hold Bitcoin, you're going to be getting Bitcoin private. So you'll be getting, however many Bitcoin you own, you'll be getting that equivalent in Bitcoin private. But if you wanted to get more, I might wait until the actual date that it gets released on the market, and then buy and hold. Wait to see that parabolic run that we've seen with Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, and Bitcoin Diamond, and then sell it off. That's probably what I would do. Also, another strategy that I'm thinking of partaking in is buying ZClassic with BTC based on this chart at current levels, and then waiting for an expected rise before the February 28th fork date. And then instead of holding on to ZClassic, getting my Bitcoin private, and then selling my ZClassic at a loss, I will probably sell the ZClassic right before the fork, take my profits and wait for the Bitcoin private coins to actually hit the market, and then buy those with the profit that I make for ZClassic. That way I'm not caught holding the bag. ZClassic, again, is not going away. If you look at the site, they will continue with ZClassic. If you look at this question here, what will happen with ZClassic? ZClassic and its wallets will still exist. ZClassic nodes will be supported. This is a typo. Yes, I'm a stickler for spelling sometimes, but if you're going to be running an official site, you probably should spell things correctly. That is a typo. ZClassic and its wallets will still exist. ZClassic nodes will be supported post-fork. However, as mentioned in the past, there will be no current active development for ZClassic, as the current development team will shift 100% focus to Bitcoin private development. Anyone from the community will still be able to build on ZClassic if they wish, because it is open source. So yeah, even especially given that fact that they're basically saying that nobody's going to focus on ZClassic anymore after the launch, that's even more reason to believe, the fate of ZClassic's price after the fork. So that is probably a strategy that I might consider, is buying ZClassic against BTC at current levels, waiting for the parabolic run up, selling, taking my profits in BTC, and then obviously because I hold BTC, I'm going to get the Bitcoin private coins at a 1-to-1 ratio, whether I hold BTC or ZClassic, and that way I make a little bit of profit, and then and I don't potentially lose half or more of my value of ZClassic after the fork happens. And then I will just buy Bitcoin private on the market and wait for the expected parabolic run. Again, that part is conjecture. It's just based on what previously happened with the Bitcoin forks. We don't have any data on Bitcoin private. There's no charts or anything. So that is purely conjecture based on previous events of other Bitcoin forks that had less hype and more negativity than Bitcoin private. I encourage you guys, if you guys are interested in Bitcoin private, I encourage you to read the Bitcoin private official Reddit page. There's an FAQ section that's excellent. It talks about the wallets and exchanges and what will happen to ZClassic and the dates and whatnot. It's excellent. It's put together by the official Bitcoin private team. I will link that in the description. Be sure to check it out because it has some important information regarding Bitcoin private, ZClassic, and Bitcoin. Yeah, that's it. We will be doing our first live stream today, 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. I'm really excited for that. I'm excited to chat with all of you. Again, we'll be holding a private chat room with the Patreon Gold and above members, so look out for that. Sign up to the Patreon for the trade alerts and also the post YouTube live stream chat rooms. Subscribe here for more crypto talk, trading strategy, and crypto news. Hit that notification bell. Stay safe out there.